Yes, today will be the 6th class out of the 8 that altogether constitute the number course. So before we get started, let's just briefly talk about what we learned in the first 5. Okay, first 5 classes. So, yeah, in the first class, we spent time mostly talking about vocabulary, meaning before you know how to use actual numbers like 13, 95, 3022. Yes, before you do all of that, you first have to know how to say the word number. Okay, because in Korean, depending on perspective, as you can see on page number 2, you have 3 or 4 versions of the word number. Also, meaning that you have to know when to use which. Okay. Now, in the second class, we mostly spent time talking about the fact that there are 2 formats of numbers in Korean, native Korean numbers and Sino numbers. Okay, and also when to use which, because if there are 2 formats of numbers, it doesn't just mean that you can just pick one that you like and forget the other. No, depending on the situation and context, sometimes you will have to use native Korean numbers and Sino numbers, right? So that's why we looked into page number 3, 4, and 5. Okay. And in the third class, we mostly spent time taking all of this and actually building sentences that have numbers in them so that we can practice actually using numbers. Okay, so in the fourth class also, yes, we built a lot of sentences to get more and more used to it. And also, yes, in the 5th class, the same. But yes, we are trying to now build some big numbers and also now some complicated numbers. Okay, so like 3212, something like that. Okay, yeah, so today in the 6th class, yes, we will try to use some big numbers, relatively big numbers, and also complicated numbers. So today, A and B are traveling. Okay, so now B asks something along the lines of, well, no, let's say A asks something along the lines of, what are you gonna do to kill time? Yes, during the flight, it's going to be a long flight. What are you going to do to kill time? Now, B wants to say something like, oh, don't worry about that. I like listening to music. And for this flight, I put together a playlist. And in that playlist, B says, there are 256 songs. There are 256 songs in the playlist. Okay, so yes, we already know that it's very important to know what we are doing with numbers if you see numbers in Korean, right? Because by knowing what I'm trying to do with numbers, you know where to go. Are you going to use native Korean numbers or Sino numbers? Okay, yes, there are 3 typical functions that numbers have. Number 1, to count how many. Number 1, quantifying. And number 3, labeling. Okay, right now we're talking about something that we can count by saying how many. Songs, right? Because you can't say, how many songs do you have in that playlist? How many songs do you need? How many songs did you write? Or something along those lines. Okay, so it means that we are counting how many. And when you are counting, yes, usually you use native Korean numbers. However, that's what you would have usually done, but native Korean numbers are only used up until 99, right? So right now, we have a number that is bigger than 99, which is 256, right? Okay, so even though we are counting, therefore, we should be using native Korean numbers, I will be using Sino numbers. Okay, so let's go to Sino numbers and try to build the number 256. Okay, so when you're building a big number like 256 in Sino numbers, the thought process should be very simple, right? Okay, so yeah, take a look at the list, the chart on the bottom left on page number 4 and ask yourself, what is the biggest unit within the number that I need right now? The number is 256. Okay, so do I have 1,000? Do I have 1,000 in that number? No. The biggest unit on this list is 100. within the number 256. It's just that I need two of them. So I'm going to say I need 200. So 200. Okay. 200. 200. 200. And then now what do I have left? I already took care of 200. Now I have 56 left. Okay, so yeah, now do the same thing over. Yeah, one more time. Just do it all over again. Within the number 56, what is the biggest unit I have in this list? The bottom left. I don't have 100 there anymore. In 56, the biggest unit is a 10. It's just that I need 5 of them. So I'm going to say 5, 10, 50. So 250. And then now, yeah, I just need a 6. 6. So 256. So 256. 256. Okay, so 256 in Sino numbers. Yes, it usually should be native Korean numbers when you're counting, but native Korean numbers are usually only used up to 99. Okay, so that's why I'm using Sino numbers. Okay, does that make sense? If it does, 계속할까요? Should we continue? Okay, because I'm about to do something very, very important. This is very, very important because, yeah, if you don't know this, you might be thrown off a little bit confused when you're listening. Okay, so I just explained the reason why I'm using Sino numbers because once again, if I'm counting how many, it should be native Korean numbers. The only reason I used Sino numbers is because, yes, native Korean numbers are only used up until 99 once again. So that's why 200, that far exceeds 99. However, after you take care of 200, you have 56 left. Now, 56 doesn't exceed 99. So now this depends on habit. There are people who do this, there are people who don't. It literally just comes down to habit. Some people will just say the whole number in Sino numbers because altogether it exceeds 99. However, some people might do this. 200. 56. So only, I'm sorry, why did I say 편? 256. So can you see what I did? Yeah, only up until 200 I used Sino numbers, but 56 I went back to native Korean numbers because I am counting. Yes, because native Korean numbers are only used up until 99. I had no choice when I was saying 200, but starting from 56, yeah, because I am counting and therefore I should be using native Korean numbers, I can come back to native Korean numbers. And I just said, yeah, on this list, on the bottom left, I placed a 50, shin. Sorry, shin here, shin. And then 6, 6. So 256. So once again, do you have to do this? No. Yeah, it depends on habit. There are people who like doing it, and there are people who just don't do it. So it literally just comes down to habit. Oh, you like saying 256 when you're counting? Well, I just like saying 256 when I'm counting. Okay, does that make sense? If it does, 계속할까요? Should we continue? Okay, so both work. Today, let's use 256. Okay, or to get used to a combination of both, let's use 256. Okay, so I'm just going to say 200 in Sino and 56 in native Korean numbers. Okay, so yeah, B can say the predicative adjective there are or there is, and then, yeah, whenever you have there is or there isn't, whatever it modifies is the subject. Okay, so now we already know this, right? When you're counting something, yeah, knowing how to say 256 and knowing how to say song is not enough to say 256 songs. Because even when you're counting in Korean, you need a counting unit. Okay, so let's go to page number 7. Okay, so yeah, the counting unit for songs. I'm sorry. Just something. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, the counting unit. I'm sorry, let me just check something. Okay, I'm sorry, I was just checking something. Yeah, anyway. So, okay, never mind. Yeah, so the counting unit. Yeah, I thought that there was something wrong with the screen. So, the counting unit for songs is 곡, 곡. So that's why, yeah, when you're saying 12 songs, you're not just saying 12 songs, you're saying 노래 12곡. 노래 12곡. So 12 곡s of songs. Okay, so yeah, we need this counting unit right now because we are indeed talking about songs. Okay, so I'm going to say, B is going to say 256곡 있어요. Okay, so once again, the context is A is going to ask B, what are you going to kill time? Yeah, so what are you going to do during the flight? And B says, well, I have a playlist, and in that playlist, I have 256 곡s of songs. 노래 256곡 있어요. 노래 256곡 있어요. 노래 256곡 있어요. Usually, if you have something that has its own counting unit, like song, or like person, people, 명, you could say, isn't using that unit itself already making the thing that you're counting too obvious? For example, 사람. The unit that you are using, 명, already indicates that you're talking about people because 명 is only used for people. Therefore, can't you just automatically omit the thing that you're counting immediately? Well, my answer is sometimes because, yes, usually, if you're talking about people and therefore you're using 명, yes, you automatically omit it without any kind of a context. Let's say there was no context whatsoever. I'm just going to go up to someone and start a conversation by saying, yeah, 5 people are waiting for you, or whatever. Yeah, so there was no contextual buildup that makes people obvious. But because I'm using this 명 counting unit, without the help of a contextual buildup, I can just immediately omit 사람. However, that usually only works with 사람. Yes, when you're talking about something else that has its unique counting unit, yeah, although, yes, the unique counting unit does make it obvious, you still keep whatever you are counting. Let's say, yeah, 12 songs. 노래 12곡 있어요. So with anything other than people, yes, even though you are counting something that has its own counting unit, yeah, the counting unit alone does not let you omit whatever the thing that you are counting is. However, you can omit it if there's two things that is making it obvious. Number one, the counting unit and context. For example, if context helps as well, let's say A says, how many songs do you have in that playlist? And B's answer is, oh, I have 12 songs. Now, the counting unit is making it obvious, and also the context is making it obvious as well, because the question was, how many songs do you have in that playlist? Now I can omit it. However, yes, one exception, something that you can just immediately omit, even without the help of context, is, once again, usually 사람, people. With 사람, you don't need the help of context, just the counting unit itself lets you omit it immediately. So, once again, we are traveling, and A is asking B questions, like, are you ready? So what are you going to do During the flight, what are you going to do when you get there? Are you well prepared? So A is asking questions like that. Okay, so now A is going to ask, okay, well, I get that you're going to kill time listening to music, but do you remember what I said when we were getting ready for this trip? I said you have to bring a lot of t-shirts. Okay, because let's say we're going to a country called Wawa Land. Okay, let's just make a fictional country, make up a fictional country, Wawa Land. And let's say Wawa Land is very hot. Okay, so it's very hot in Wawa Land. So, yeah, although we are going to stay only for 3 days, A said, yeah, bring 8 t-shirts because we're going to be changing a lot. We're going to be sweating a lot. Okay, so A says, did you pack 8? And then T. Yeah, a t-shirt, yes, in Korean, you just say T. Because of course, a t-shirt is a foreign concept. So that's why you use the foreign word t-shirt, but just the abbreviation T. Okay, so yeah, you will almost never hear someone say t-shirt. Of course, you like t-shirt. The way you say it in Korean, t-shirt. However, yeah, this sounds very, very textbook-esque. So, in a real life conversation, you will almost never hear someone say t-shirt, t-shirt. They will use the abbreviation T. Okay, so A said, yeah, when they were preparing for this trip, hey, bring 8 t-shirts. So A is going to ask, okay, enjoy your music. I just want to ask you another question. Did you pack 8 t-shirts as I told you to? Okay, so of course, placing did in a question sentence that already has a verb as an auxiliary verb is not something that you would do in Korean, right? But because I removed did, now there is nothing that indicates past tense. So the verb will do it itself. Okay, and no you. And then 8 T's, t-shirts. Okay, so yes, right now we're using a number. Now, are we using it to count how many, or are we using it to quantify or label? Are we counting something? Is this something that we can count by saying how many? When you say t-shirts? Exactly, yes. Okay, exactly. We are counting. Then, if we are counting, are you going to use native Korean numbers or Sino numbers? So I should be giving you 2 factors. Number 1, we are counting and the number is 8. Then, are you going to use native Korean numbers or Sino numbers? Exactly, yes, yes. We are counting. We're talking about something that we can count by saying how many. Therefore, we should use native Korean numbers. But if the number goes over 99, I would have used Sino numbers, but the number is 8. Okay, so yes, we're going to use 여덟. Now, a little variable that you do have to keep in mind when you're using 여덟 in native Korean numbers is that the B here is silent. So do not say 여덟 or 여덟. Say 여덟 as if the B is not there at all. Okay, so once again, we are counting something, but once again, knowing how to say 8 and t-shirt is not enough to say 8 t-shirts. Once again, we need some kind of a counting unit. Okay, so let's go to page number 6. Okay, let's go to page number 6. We have clothes. Yeah, t-shirts, clothes. And the counting unit for clothes, 벌. Okay, 벌. So, T, 여섯 벌. So we're not saying 6 t-shirts, we're saying 6 벌s of t-shirts. 6 벌s of tees. Okay, so let's use this counting unit and say T 여덟. Once again, listen carefully. I am not pronouncing the B. It's going to be silent. T, 여섯 벌. And then pack. Now, when it comes to pack, there are enlarged two versions that you will use. You can either say 싸다, or you can say 챙기다. Okay, so the difference comes from, now the difference is, 싸다 is usually when you're not really being specific. You're just talking about things, stuff in general, everything that you need during a trip, for a trip. Yeah, if you're just gonna ask someone, did you pack? Did you finish packing? I'm not focused on one specific item. I'm just saying things in general, things that you need during the trip. Did you pack all of them? So in that case, 짐, stuff or luggage, 짐, pack, 짐. However, if you're going to be focused on one specific item, right now, I'm talking about t-shirt. Yeah, of course, I know that you have a whole bunch of things in your suitcase, but right now, I'm just focused on one specific item. So, 챙기다. Okay, so, T, 챙기다. So, T, 여덟 벌. So, 8 벌s of t-shirts packed, 챙기다. But, of course, I don't want its display form. I want its actual form in past tense, right? So, according to the rules of inflection route number 1, I'm going to inflect it, in other words, conjugate it into 챙겼어요. Okay, so T 여덟 벌 챙겼어요. T 여덟 벌 챙겼어요. T 여덟 벌 챙겼어요. Now, A will say another sentence. So yes, A did tell B before, hey, you better bring a lot of t-shirts, at least 8. We're going to be changing a lot because I think we will be sweating a lot. It's very hot in Wawa land. Okay, so now A is going to explain that one more time. A is going to say it is 35, is 35 degrees, yeah, Celsius. So let's do this. Let's just say 도. All day. Okay, of course, in Wawa land. So, yeah, let's say we have time all day and we have two nouns. Yeah, all sorts of counting units or quantifying units, they can be nouns. They are nouns. So we're basically saying, including pronouns, a noun is a noun. Okay, just like when you say, this is a cup or whatever. He is a police officer. Okay, so when you're saying a noun is a noun, it means that you're saying a subject is a subject complement. Okay, no is, am, was, were, are, and the subject it, of course, will be omitted. Okay, so now we have our subject complement, 35 도 degrees Celsius. Okay, so now a Korean sentence can never end with a subject complement. The time will come first and then the subject complement. But a Korean sentence can never end with a subject complement, right? So we're going to add an ending mark behind it. Okay, so now let's first start with time then, of course. So this is what I always say, right? It doesn't just apply to numbers. Whenever you're learning something up in Korean, I always say the biggest keyword that you should keep in mind is version. That's why if any kind of a curriculum says something like, oh, this is how you say this in Korean, goodbye, see you tomorrow, that's a trap. Yes. Yeah, you're seeing a bait called convenience, and if you take that bait called convenience, you are led to a shortcut, and if you do take that shortcut, yes, you'll have to pay for taking that shortcut at some point anyway. Once again, I know that it's a very cliche of a thing to say, but no pain, no gain. Okay, so it has to be complicated. It has to be annoying. So you should always try to ask this question. Nope, that's too simple. I'm sure that it only works in this situation, and if any of the conditions change from this situation, then I'm pretty sure that there's another version. So, for example, all. yeah, there are a whole bunch of ways of saying all. For example, if I'm going to say, close all the doors. Okay, so when you're simply placing all in front of a noun, some kind of a noun, in this case door, what's the best way of doing it? Yes, there are a lot of ways of doing it, but I always say placing the noun and behind it placing 다 is the best way, right? 다 will play the role of all. Of course, no the. So if I want to say, tell someone, close all the doors, I'm going to say 문 다 닫아요. 문 다 닫아요. Okay, so there are of course other ways of doing it, such as let's keep the 닫아요 here. Such as 문 모두 닫아요. One, yeah, extremely poetic. 전부, terrifyingly poetic. 모든, horrifyingly poetic. Okay, so do not use any of them. Let 다 do it. Don't use any of the other versions. They are either extremely, intimidatingly, horrifyingly, or terribly poetic. Okay, so let 다 do it. Now, but once again, is this the only version then I should keep in mind? No, of course you have to know the poetic versions to avoid them. And also, now, this doesn't work if what all is modifying is some kind of a time word. Okay, so door has nothing to do with time, right? So, but if you place all with a time word, now it's different. All day, all weekend, all summer, or yeah, all summer, or something like that, with time words. Now then, if the word that you are having all modify is some kind of a time word, yes, then it's 내내. So place the time word and place 내내. So like all day, all weekend, all summer, all year, or something like that. Okay, so now it's 내내. But once again, this is what I mean by it has to be annoying, it has to be long and complicated, you have to have the if, ands, or buts. Okay, so this is how you will use all with a time word, but there are in large two exceptions, which are all day and all night. They don't follow the 내내 rule, they just have their own rules. Any other time word, for example, let's say all weekend, I'm going to place weekend and place 내내, and have 내내 play the role of all that modifies time. 주말 내내, 주말 내내. Or let's say, I was sick all winter. I catch a cold easily. Winter, of course, is a season, a time word. 겨울 내내. Yes, so usually with time words, I will have 내내 play the role of all, except for all day and all night. All day would be 하루 종일. It just has its own word. And also, all night, 밤새. Okay, so right now we're going to use all day, 하루 종일. So that's why whenever you're learning anything in Korean, if something says, oh, this is how you say all in Korean, goodbye. No, that's too simple. It must be a bait called convenience, which is leading me to a shortcut, and I will have to pay for it anyway later. So that's bad investment. So 하루 종일. 하루 종일. Okay, all day, and then 35. So always look at the unit that you are using, degree for temperature, and ask yourself, what is this unit for? What is 도 for? Degrees, 35 degrees. It's for temperature, right? Is temperature something that you count by saying how many? Do you say, oh, it's pretty chilly right now. How many temperatures do we have right now? Do you say that or not? Exactly. No. I wouldn't say, oh, it's pretty chilly. How many temperatures is it right now? Of course not. So we are not counting, we are quantifying. Okay, so because we are quantifying, that tells you that we should be using not native Korean numbers, but Sino numbers, right? So we're just gonna say 35 in Sino numbers. Once again, yeah, go to this chart on the bottom left and ask yourself, what is the biggest unit here within the number that I need? 35. Is there a peck in there? No, but I do have a 10 in there. It's just that I need 3 of them. So I need 3, 3, tens, 3 ships. 30. Okay, and then if I do that, all I have left is a 5. So I'm going to say 35. Okay. So 하루 종일 35도. Yes, 도, degrees. Usually in Korean you use Celsius. So, and then I'm going to place an ending mark because the subject complement ends with a vowel. I'm going to attach 에요. Okay, so 하루 종일 35도예요. 하루 종일 35도예요. 하루 종일 35도예요. It is 35 degrees Celsius all day. So, this time, B is going to say something. Now, as you can see, A is the one usually explaining what it's like in Wawa land. Hey, bring 8 t-shirts, it's 35 degrees all day, whatever. Okay, so it seems like A is more experienced with Wawa land compared to B, right? B is just following along just to enjoy. Okay, so now why is A more experienced with Wawa land compared to B? Well, because A, it's not the first time for A going to Wawa land. Okay, so let's say A already has been to Wawa land in 1998. Okay, so B remembers that. B remembers that A already told him that he went to Wawa land in 1998. So B is going to say something along the lines of, okay, yeah, I did. By the way, why did you go there? Why did you go? Let's omit there. It's kind of too obvious. Why did you go in 1998? Okay, so we have a big and complicated number. 1998. Okay, so let's first build the number. Let's first build the number. So yeah, if we're saying 1998, we're talking about time. Okay, we're talking about time. Once again, is time. I'm going to use the unit year, 년. Because in Korean, yes, once again, just like we talked about yesterday, you don't say 2026. You say the year of 2026. So you still need 년, year, as a unit. Now, once again, we're just going to do the same thing. I'm going to look at the unit that I'm using and I'm going to ask myself, what is this unit for? It's for time. And yes, time is not something that I count by saying how many. I don't say, how many time do you need? How many time do we have left? I don't say that. So time is not something that you count, it's something that you quantify. Therefore, once again, Sino numbers. And even if I was counting, I still would have used Sino numbers, right? Because, yes, when you're counting, you usually use native Korean numbers, but native Korean numbers are only used up to 99. Okay, so for both reasons, even if I were counting, I would have used Sino numbers, and plus, I'm not counting, I'm quantifying anyway, so Sino numbers. Okay, so, yeah, let's use Sino numbers. Again, let's build the number 1998. Yes, we're not going to say 1998. We're going to say 1998. The year of 1998. Okay, so once again, in the number 1998, what is the biggest unit here in this list bottom left, in this chart bottom left, within that number? Do I have a man? No, because man is 10,000. 10,000. So, man. Okay, so now, I don't have a man here, but I do have a 천 here. I do have 1,000, right? I do have 1,000. So, I'm going to place 1,000. But you could be asking a question. Do we have to say 1 here? 1,000? 998, no, you don't have to place 일. If there is no 일, yeah, people will just automatically understand it as, yeah, 1,000. So I'm going to start with 천. Okay, so I took care of 1,000. Now what we have left is 998. Okay, so we're just going to do the same thing all over again. Within the number 998, what is the biggest unit that I need on this list? I don't have a 천 anymore. I do have a 백 though. It's just that I need nine of them, right? So I need 9 pecks. 900. Okay, so 1,900. And then, yeah, all over again. Now I have 98 left. Okay, so in the number 98, I don't have a peck anymore. I do have a ship though. It's just that I need 9 of them. I need 9, 10. Okay, 1990. And then all I need is a 8, 8. Okay, 1998. And then once again, when you're talking about ear, in Korean, you don't just say the number, you still need the unit ear. So you're saying the ear of 1998. 1998. 1998. 1998. Okay. So 1998년. Oops, I'm sorry. So this is the number that we will use. I will write it down again later. No, actually, I'll keep it here. So, yeah, I'm saying in 1998, the year of 1998. Of course, I'm talking to you, no did. And because I removed did, the verb has to indicate past tense itself. So we're going to say went. Okay, so time, verb, and then we're going to look at y as an adverb. Okay, and before we start the sentence, yeah, we're going to use the adverbial phrase by the way, right? Okay, so now, of course, there are a lot of ways of saying by the way, but right now I'm going to use 근데. So now you don't need a comma in Korean. So this also ties into something that I just explained a little while ago, which is emphasizing the keyword version. Okay, so yeah, everything has a lot of versions to it. So 근데 also the opposite way around. So something can do a lot of things at the same time as well. One thing can do a lot of things at the same time as well. That's why once again, if a curriculum says, oh, 근데 is this. 근데 is a version of but. Goodbye, I'll see you next time. Once again, that's what I call a curriculum running away. Okay, so 근데 can do a lot of things. It can be a version of but, it can be a version of and, it can be a version of then, and it can be a way of saying by the way. Okay, so yeah. Right now, B is going to say it as a way of saying by the way. Okay, so it seems like B has been thinking of asking this question. So another way you can say by the way, a typical example would be using an interjection, like wow, oh, like huh, using like an interjection, which is 참, 참, or 아참. Now, the long version or short version, that usually comes down to habit. I'll write it down here. 아참. So people could either say 아참 or 참 or 근데. So what's the difference between using an interjection 아참, 참 versus 근데 as by the way? There is a difference when it comes to nuance. 아참 or 참 really makes it sound like, hey, this just came to mind. I was not thinking about this. This question just, or this topic just popped up in my mind just right now, literally right now as I'm speaking. 근데, on the other hand, gives off the nuance that, yeah, I'm changing topic by saying by the way, but I was planning on changing into this subject, into this topic at some point. I was already planning it. Okay, so it's not really completely spontaneous. This has a very, very spontaneous nuance to it. Okay, so B is going to use 근데, which means, yeah, B already was thinking about asking A this question at some point. Okay, so it's just that B's doing it right now. Okay, so 근데 근데 1998년에 so I'm going to place 에 that can play the role of in if it's modifying a time word. 근데 1998년에 and then 왜 a version of why and then 가다 but I don't want its display form, right? I want its actual form in past tense. So according to the rules of inflection route number 1, 갔어요. So 근데 1998년에 왜 갔어요? 근데 1998년에 왜 갔어요? 근데 1998년에 왜 갔어요? Now, what we will do tomorrow for the 7th class, we're going to try to cover most, if not all, of the most useful and typical counting or quantifying units that I included in this material, the PDF file. So in the 7th class, we will focus on trying to use, as many of them as possible so that we have experience using each of them at least once. Okay, so like 대 for vehicles, 채 for buildings, 곡 for songs, 기 for meals. Okay, so we'll try to use most of them, if not all of them.